Hello and welcome. Today we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Slicer. So the Slicer is a Class B um, corvette, and um, basically it's just a nice small little fighter jet that I ended up having to use Class B because I really wanted to use these particular engines. Um, Additionally, I put no restrictions for starship design on this ship, so obviously then I just use the best of everything. However, with a few changes, you could go ahead and downgrade this ship either to a Class A ship or potentially even run it as a variation that has no starship design requirements. Though, if you did that, it would have to remain as a Class B ship. So, let's go ahead, take a quick tour, and then I'll show you how it's built and how you can make some variations of it. Now, I will note this exact layout does require the Better Ship Part Flips and Snaps mod. And you can tell right in here, because this Dymo's wing is not in the kind of normal snapping position. The Better Ship Part Snaps mod, I believe it is, gives you a Nova mini bracer that allows you to have a little offset. You can go ahead and build this ship without those mods. However, you will not get this exact same effect right here. But that is the only thing that mods really change about this ship. Well, I guess that is slightly different, but whatever. Um, but I will go ahead and show you what you can do if you want to build the ship without mods. Now, you can see as we come in, we are immediately entering into the only hab, which is a Hope Tech 2x1 all-in-one. We've got our landing bay access, our docking bay access, our bed and kitchen, and then finally we have that Commander 500 bridge, or alternatively the Armstrong bridge if you want to do a lower grade of it. And that's it. Nice, simple ship. So, how is it built? Let's take a look. Alrighty, so here you have it. Quick little look at the outside. Alright, so for this ship, I went ahead and did a kind of two-tone color scheme. But instead of just changing the colors for the whole ship, I had the kind of dark colors on the inside and then the golden kind of external pieces. So, put those in, and then let me delete the ship and show you how it's built. Alright, so first things first is you are going to go ahead and start with your landing bay. Now, I use the 120 LD landing bay. However, if you are trying to build this with the better ship without the better ship flips and snaps, you may want to consider using the Hope 4 landing bay instead, because you might need these side connection pieces here. Alternatively, you can kind of ignore that portion, and I will show you another way that you could make that work. Next up, for habs, we've got that one hab right there. I am using the Play Stores Yourself mod, but because there's only a single hab, I do not need to place any doors at all. Next, we'll go ahead and select a bridge. If you are building this without Starship Design, just select the best Armstrong bridge you can. But, you know, Starship Design Rank 2, let's grab that Commander 500 bridge. Next up, for my Docker, I have it set directly behind this, and I'm using the Connect Pro Docker here. This is actually hidden under some structural pieces, so the ship doesn't look like it has a Docker at all. But if you want your Docker visible, I can show you a variation that you can do with that instead. where instead of using this, we can go ahead and grab the NG2 Docker, and then off the front, we can go ahead and slap on a Nova cowling. Now, personally, I don't like this look as much as I enjoy the um, this Nova cowling clipped in. But let me go ahead and just slap that Docker back on. And for this one, you could use the Connect Pro, the 100 DP Slim, or the Extend Port 200. Any of them is basically the same thing, but it's not visible. Um, the Slim's probably the best because it's got no mass, but this one does provide a little bit of hull. All right. So let's go ahead and finish building up the center of this ship, and then I will show you the wings. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to come on down here and we're going to add our reactor. So for this, again, because I decided I didn't care about Starship design or anything like that, but I wanted the Class B engines, I just tossed on the 104 DS Mag Inertial. However, you could use any Class B reactor that you want. You're just going to change how much power you have available. Or you can use whatever variation of the Class A reactors you want. Um, the Spheromag DC2 or 2 is the best if you have Starship design. And if you do that, then you can go ahead and use a different set of engines, and I'll tell you which ones in a little bit. Next up, right here, we are going to go ahead and place our grav drive. And for this ship, I used the Helios 300 grav drive. That was all the power I needed, because this is a fairly low mass ship. Next, right underneath, I went ahead and I stuck a cargo. There we go. And if you do not have Starship design, just grab this 100 cm ballast cargo hold. But with Starship design rank 1, I can go ahead and stick on this Hauler 10T cargo hold. All right. So next thing here is I'm going to come over here and I am going to grab landing gear. And I'm using 4 of the Pinpoint 3G landing gears. And the Better Ship Part Flips and Snaps gives me a rear connection point so I can connect it like this. Without that mod, you could not connect this piece. That's why I said that you would either need to go here and use the Hope 4 landing bay instead, which you can see does change the profile of the ship a little bit. Or the other option would be you could keep this and instead go ahead and use the Ulysses M50 fuel tank, just kind of clipping down like that, and then that would go ahead and give you a similar-ish effect with lining up with this landing gear. So it's kind of your choice on which way you would want to roll with that. All right, next up, let's go ahead and just get that on the other side of the ship. Right here, I'm going to go ahead and put on a pair of the Ulysses M30 tanks. And these are partially hidden underneath some of my structural pieces later. However, there's still some small gaps there without these pieces, and I wanted to kind of fill that in. Speaking of those structural pieces, let's go ahead and start by slapping on some Nova cowlings, just like so. And you will notice that normally there's no connection points on this, but we're flipping, or without the better ship part flips and snaps, we would be flipping the Nova cowlings in right here. And you can see what I meant now when I said that there's like these small gaps without this piece in place. Just kind of looking down, and I liked this to go ahead and kind of fill that in some. But I didn't feel any need to fill in towards the rear because this is now clipping into this Nova cowling. Alright, so next, there we go. Alright, so I'm now going to go ahead and flip this on over to the other side, and this is now forming the basis for our wings. Now I will note here that if you would like to, rather than having it connected right here, you could go ahead and shift this forward one, and then if you did that, and I'll just kind of show you what it would look like either way, just how far forward you kind of want these engine pods to be. So, speaking of those engine pods, what makes them? Well, let's go ahead and grab our landing gear first. So I've got a pinpoint 4G landing gear on the bottom. Then come back on over to my structural tab, scroll on down until I get to tie out, and I'm going to put a nose cap on. On the rear of this, I'm now going to go ahead and select my engines. Now, for me, I really wanted to go ahead and use these Nova 1050 engines, just because I wanted an excuse to use this shape. However, you could get a very similar shape and better mobility and speed by using the SA4330s configured to look like this. The overall shape is very similar, and what I'll do is I will just show that on the other side of this ship. Alright, so I've got this all down, and I can now go ahead and pull this on over. And then I'm going to come on over here to my structural tab, and then I'm going to come on down and find this Nova Mini Bracer. So this Nova Mini Bracer is kind of what makes this whole wing appearance work. Without it, I could go ahead and grab, where did it go? The Tayo mid cap here. And then I could look at putting on, where did that go? The Deimos wing here. So I could go ahead and put this on like this, but now you kind of get this little, almost like a pincher going on right here. However, with the mini bracer, I can now attach that there, and now it is kind of flush with this nose cap. And then over here, you can see that it is slightly visible, but it is also more or less flush with this Nova cowling here. And once they're all the same color, you will lose visibility of it. Then over here, I went ahead and attached the Nova wing. Let me just set that over here for a moment, and then I will put this mid cap back on, and that is how I got that appearance. Now, coming on over here, I can just easily flip things around, and ta-da, it's all connected. And there we have it. Now, one of the things that you may have noticed while I was fiddling with all of that is there's a lot of places that we could actually connect this mini bracer to. So as it is, I have it connected right here in the center of this landing gear. However, I could also push it forward, and now I can connect either like this or like this. It's still maintaining the kind of central line going on here. I can go ahead and connect it right here. And now this connection piece is more or less in the same spot, but that would tuck the wing in some. Or the other major spot that I could put it is connected to the engine right here. And that is going to go ahead and backset these wings a little bit. And you get more of this appearance. So depending upon exactly where you want things to line up, will change how you go ahead and connect that mini bracer. And you can see, looking here, this is now coming out of the center of the cowling, whereas on this side, it's coming down on the bottom, because that mini bracer is slightly raised up by being connected to this back center point of the engine. So exactly where you want to place it is going to be up to you. I just, after playing around with it, decided that I liked this position. But, you know, you could certainly mess around with it a lot. All right, so let's go ahead and talk those engines really quick. So the ship that I built has two of these. Once we go ahead and we slap on our weapons, we drop a little bit below 100 mobility, but that's still plenty. Actually, the big part is the shield. And we can go ahead and, you know, use a best class shield. We need 6 points of power for our engines. If I were to go ahead and use these instead, you can see I'm still very nice mobility now. I can add a good bit more mass with this mobility, and then just kind of play around with things as much as I want there. This particular configuration is going to give you more mobility, it's going to give you a better top speed, but it's going to require 2 more engine power, and you might end up needing to upgrade your grav drive to the Helios 400. Alternatively, you could go ahead using this and swap this out for a Class A reactor instead, if you don't have the piloting skill to rank 3. And then again, you can see I am still demonstrating here. Do you want this tucked in more or pushed out more? And it's just a question here of which way you like it. So putting this on here. You can see we can have a longer, slightly more aggressive appearance like this, or we can pull that forward and have it look more like this. And this is the configuration that I went with. That doesn't mean that it has to be the configuration that you go with. So it's entirely up to you on which way you like it more. Alrighty. Oh, I see. This connected to the mini bracer. There we go. So the error that it was throwing was basically saying that my landing gear wasn't touching down at the same point as my landing bay because I had accidentally connected this to the mini bracer and not to these engines and mid-cap. All right. So going back to the build that I went with, Yeah, grab my engines again. And again, if you are going for a Class B, but you don't have the what's called Starship design, you can just use these Nova 1000s. It is a noticeable drop. You can see that we lose about 1,000 maneuvering, a little over 1,000 maneuvering thrust, going from the 1000 to the 1050. Um, but you can always go ahead and do some other adjustments if you need to, like say dropping this cargo hold for the 100 ballast, and that would save you about 100 mass. All right. Now from here, as you can see, we already have our fuel with the Ulysses M30s here, though these could also be Nova Cowlings. So we need weapons and we need our shield. Now, for me, I'm going to go ahead and just put my shield down here. And because I have the better ship part flips, I can just go ahead and still grab that Defender 28T and just either hide that here, or I could hide it under like one of the Nova Cowlings over here, just anywhere that I really wanted to. So like, and if I put it there, you can't see it at all. You know, it's just wherever you want to hide it. Or if you don't care about hiding it, you can just find somewhere else to stick it. Alright, then weapons. So also you will notice I went down to 93 mobility by adding that shield. I would still have 100 mobility with the other engines. Now for my weapons, I went ahead and used a set of 4 of these Class A Disruptor 3310s. I was looking for the non-auto weapons, and I wanted packs of 4, just because I liked how that looked. If I just wanted pure performance, I would probably go ahead and look at grabbing like the Vaporizer 35s and then the Exterminators. However, again, because I wanted that look and that symmetry, I am using PB 175s. And I'm using 4 of these as well. And then the other thing that I'm doing, let me just slap these on really quick. As you can see, we have copious numbers of weapon hardpoints. Note you cannot put a weapon up here, because then we are going to be outside of our, we're going to be above our docking ring axis. But you can go ahead and stick them up top here without any issues. All right. And then for me, though, I decided that I kind of like the under mount weapons. So I stuck one on each of these. You could either stick it here or you could stick it here. And then, well, I could go ahead and stick these up top. Instead, I went ahead over here and better ship part flips. I can go ahead and slap an equipment plate on right here. And now I can go ahead and slap that weapon on right there. As you can see, I really don't need this weapon equipment plate, because I could very easily just go ahead and pull this off and stick that on right there, or as mentioned up top, there's plenty of places to put something. Or I could also swap this equipment plate out with the Horizon weapon mount, and doing that, if I were to just go ahead and pull this off, come on. Why do you have to be a pain in the butt? So if I do that, I could look at doing something like this and get a little bit more distance between them, and it's the same amount of mass for that as it is for this. So it's just whatever you like the appearance of the most. And of course, another option would be to go ahead and put that horizon weapon mount on right there. And now we can go ahead and do something like this. And that's another way to go ahead and stagger it so it doesn't look like it's shooting through itself. Alrighty. So, enough fiddling around. Let's go ahead and paint the ship. So I'm going to go ahead and let's just do the whole thing black to start. And then I will come on over here and basically highlight pieces that I want in gold. And there you have it. So, now that we've built the slicer, let's go ahead, take it for a spin. All right, and you can see with the Enitronic Fusion skill maxed out, with this particular engine configuration, I can fully power up all of my weapons, all of my engines, all of my shields, and still have 2 power left over. If I had used the Slayton 4000 series, I would still have enough power to do everything, but I wouldn't have any spare power. So let's go ahead, take it out to Serpentis. And see what happens when we jump into combat. Well, that was quick and easy. And despite being in range of them, they didn't actually shoot at me. That was kind of the more interesting part. Alright, so you can see we were quickly able to deal with 3 um, enemy ships, though they were all the lower class pieces. There wasn't any like Vigil 2s or Vigil 3s. So they didn't have a whole lot going for them. Now let's go ahead and check out this hostile activity. Alright, so it looks like I have 3 enemy ships. Dirge 2, a Prophecy, and a Dirge. So let's go ahead and just slap this Dirge out first. And here I'm going to go ahead and see what happens if I'm not kiting. Alright. And without multiple rank 2 or rank 3 ships, you can see it wasn't really an issue. Oh, come on. I am literally looking right at it. Thank you. And there's another one sitting around here somewhere, but I don't feel like finding it. Alright, so let's come on over here. A Hem 3 and a Hem. Not really an issue. And you do feel the difference between Class A and Class B engines here. The Class Bs don't respond quite as quickly and don't give you as big of a boost as the Class A's would. But again, that just comes back to I really wanted an excuse to use these specific engines because they look cool. And considering how much you already need to optimize your shields and your weapons when you're playing on extreme difficulty, being able to fiddle around with the engines and that sort of stuff is still nice to be able to do. Is anybody going to show up? Feels like nobody ever shows up at Serpentis 2. Alright. Alrighty. Well, let's go ahead and see if we can get one more engagement somewhere. and maybe see if we can get a challenge. And it looks like the answer to that question is going to be no. Alright. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call it here. If you enjoyed watching, thank you very much, and I will see you in the next one.